I'm Carl, and you're watching the Coffee Bowling Channel.
Welcome back to the Coffee Bowling Channel. If you're tuning in this week, you want your bowling ball to hook more, just like me, or anybody that likes to see their bowling ball hook. So, we're gonna get right into it. The first things first, you should probably understand what makes a bowling ball curve. So, what makes a bowling ball curve is a couple different things that are all mashed together to create ball reaction. So you have A, the cover stock, the weight block, and the drilling, and then lastly, but the most important thing out of everything is friction. I know, sciencey, right? But friction is what really makes a bowling ball hook. If there was oil 60 feet down the lane, your bowling ball would go straight the whole way. Or maybe hook just a little bit if it was a super high performance bowling ball that grabbed the lane. But without friction, your bowling ball simply cannot hook. So we're gonna debunk some stuff on how to get your bowling ball to hook a little bit more, and I'll even show you how to use friction on a lane as far as like placement of your bowling ball goes and how to get it to hook a little bit more. So one surefire way to get your bowling ball to hook more is with your ball speed. No, it does not mean throw it harder. It means throw it slower. What does slowing your ball speed down do for your ball in relation to getting it to hook more? I'll explain that. So your bowling ball will hook more the more time it has in order to experience friction. That catalyst that I explained earlier, that is the main reason why your bowling ball is going to hook. Now, being able to slow your ball speed down dramatically increases its ability to grab the lane and create friction between the surface of the lane and the bowling ball. So you're probably wondering, well, if I'm gonna have to throw it slower now, how do I do that? Well, I have a great tip on how to control your ball speed in another video that is already on my YouTube channel, and it is just focused on changing your ball speed. So if what I'm about to say doesn't quite do it for you, you can check out that video, it might help. So when it comes to slowing your ball speed down, you generally want to slow your first 2 steps down, and then you want to slow the speed at which you're pushing your ball away, and you want to generally keep that tempo a little bit slower when you're trying to throw your ball a little bit slower, and that's really what's going to get your ball going a little slower. So, and then another main ingredient to get your bowling ball to hook more is using the friction that's already on the lane with your bowling pattern. So generally, I'm not really going to talk about the PBA patterns or any kind of sport bowling pattern, because really this video isn't really geared towards that. This video is geared towards the bowlers that, you know, probably have never even bowled on one of those patterns. So that this is supposed to be a real easy to understand video. So we're going to just keep it to house shots. So on your house shots, most of the friction, if not all of it, is anywhere from the second arrow to the gutter. Now that's just, you know, an average. Obviously some centers are going to be a little different than that, but that's generally a decent starting place. First and second arrow, that's where you're going to find all of the friction on the lane. Well, not necessarily just friction readily there. What it is the least amount of oil that you can throw your ball through to give it the best chance in order to experience the friction that is on the lane. So with that being said, where you throw the ball or where you put the ball in the lane can determine how much friction that it can have. So for example, if you threw your ball up the center of the lane, that's where all the oil is. The ball's going to hydroplane and experience way less friction than if you threw it on the edge where there's a smaller amount of concentration of oil. If you can kind of gauge where that oil is by your first couple shots in practice or whenever you're bowling, you can really figure out where the friction is on the lane and get your ball curving a lot. The second surefire way to get that ball curving is your surface on your bowling ball and the drilling on your bowling ball. So, meaning like your layouts. I'm not going to get too complicated with your layouts. I'm just going to give general references on your layouts. So, the duller a bowling ball is, meaning the less shiny, the more scuffed up you make it, the more friction it's going to experience. Now do keep in mind, if a bowling ball experiences too much friction, it'll actually get less overall hook out of it. So you kind of have to find a happy medium. So if you go too shiny, you're going to lose hook. If you go too dull, you're probably going to lose hook. So you're probably thinking, what is too dull? Well, if your bowling ball is not white and after you sand it, it looks white, it may be too dull. Unless, well, again, all this stuff is pretty situational. Like on a sport pattern, sometimes you want your ball to be chalky and white because you need that ball to really hook because there's a lot of oil. But going back to keeping this simple and on house shots, you really don't need a whole lot of surface for house shots. But if your ball's not hooking enough and you do need a little more friction, you can try, if you're a low rev rate, high ball speed player, maybe 500 grit. That's pretty seriously dull. But 1,000 grit is more manageable. You'll see more hook, whereas 500 is more likely to give you less hook overall. But 2,000, 1,000, that is gonna surefire way to get your ball to pick up. So what about 3,000, 4,000? Now, these surfaces really are all dependent upon how strong your bowling ball is before you even think about surfaces. So if you're throwing a really, really strong cover stock, a really solid shell ball that wants to just hook anyways, you may be able to keep it shiny and get a lot of hook out of it. But if you're struggling with some of your other bowling balls that aren't hooking, you can always add some more surface. But do keep in mind, don't get confused by it already having so much surface that it's what we call burning up and not hooking because it has so much surface. So just know that there's a happy medium that you need to try to find. So, and another thing, your layouts. So sometimes a pro shop operator can drill your ball in a manner that you may need to have it shiny in order for it not to burn up and keep hooking. So for me, I have actually drilled several bowling balls where I drilled into it with the purpose of making it hook the most possible, but the core turned over in such a way that the ball needed to be shiny for it to even make it down lane enough to retain energy to keep hooking. So that's one thing you got to keep in mind. Sometimes, for example, how do you point out when a ball is drilled so strong that you don't need to have a lot of surface on it? Look at the flare rings, those lines that go around the ball with the oil and the blah, 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 blah. So the flare rings, if they're super tight and on top of each other like this, and the overall surface area of the ball that's covered by your flare rings is only about like that much, you can cram surface on that thing. Now, if the flare rings are covering the entire ball and one flare ring is about that far away from the other flare ring, your bowling ball is drilled very strong and it wants to hook on its own just because of how powerful of a position that the core is in. So also keep that in mind. So you got to find a happy medium of surface and your layouts that's going to create a lot of hook. Now, do keep in mind, a lot of hook is not always what you want to have. This video is just to give you what you want. Everybody wants to hook the ball. I want to hook the ball, so why not make a video on how to hook the ball? But do keep in mind, sometimes it's not the way to throw a lot of strikes. It's the way to have fun. So don't make those mistakes. Third tip for how to get your ball to hook more is your ball roll. So there are 3 kinds of ball rolls that affect the way the ball can hook or grab the lane. So one being more end over end ball roll, we call that up the back. And then you have more of the side roll that's kind of in the middle between a lot of rotation and a lot of up the back ball roll. That gets your ball down the lane a little bit longer than your up the back. And now if you're one of those real, really around it releases, they call it the fan, like the Pete Weber, Andres Gomez, those kind of guys who really have that like orbital spin on their ball. What that does is, yeah, you can really make your ball hook down lane, but remember, it's getting the ball to retain a ton of energy, so it's not hooking very early. So if you do that in the wrong part of the lane, it's gonna be hard to control. But either way, it's gonna give you a ton of hook. Now, if you notice you're doing the crazy amount of spin and it's not hooking, that's because the ball's retaining too much energy and it can't start up at all. So pay attention to whether it's getting too far down lane or hooking too early. So, like I said, the more around it you are, the longer it goes down the lane, more up the back of it are, the earlier it reads. So how does that equal more hook? I'll tell you. If you're trying to come up the back of the ball from like in front of the ball return as far left as you can stand, that gets the ball to hook early and then stop. It doesn't retain energy. So if there's a lot of oil, it's gonna hook. But if there's not a lot of oil and your house shot's a pretty dry house shot, that may end up making your ball hook less overall. So if you can, play with your surfaces if you're not capable of doing another ball roll, but if you are capable of doing another ball roll, try maybe going around it more or getting it that crazy orbital roll. So it's really dependent on what part of the lane you are and what kind of ball roll you're using. So, for example, if you're trying to play the edge of the lane and you want your ball to really hook a lot, off the gutter, getting up the back of it is going to help and get it to hook a ton. But you get up the back of it from too far left and all of a sudden that ball won't hook nearly as much. Now, let's say you're super far left and you got that orbital ball roll and you see it just winging down the lane. That is a good matchup. Now, let's say you try to get back over to the gutter and you use that super rounded ball roll. It's going to be almost uncontrollable to use and still have that big crazy hook and actually get it into the pocket. So, like I said, ball roll and your placement on the lane is got a big factor in how much it's going to hook as well. So depending on where you are, to keep your ball hooking, like let's say you're just trying to hook it a lot that day and you're moving further and further and further left as you keep hooking the ball, but you notice that, yeah, you're getting the ball to hook and you're hitting the pocket every time, but you're not striking. You're like getting 9 a lot. Well, if you adjust those ball rolls accordingly to what part of the lane you are, the ball will go through the pins better. So the further left you get, the more rounded you are. The further right you get, the more up the back of it you need to be. And now obviously there's happy medians to this. So with that being said, you gotta take some time, see how you work, watch what the different ball rolls do, kind of learn as you go. But that's the third tip, and I will show you guys some super crazy hooking shots just for, laughs and giggles. To the end of the video, you know what time it is. The end of the video. That's obvious. Anyways, thanks for watching. Small recap. There's a lot of different variables on how to get your ball to hook, and if you can utilize them, you can get your ball to hook a lot from anywhere on the lane. Like I said, the different ball rolls will affect at what distance it's going to hook. The different surfaces will affect how much it can hook or make it hook so much that it won't hook. And the different layouts with your little flare rings and how those things can affect the ball motion as well, and your ball speed. So, that's 4 or 3 different variables right there that you can use to get your ball to hook more, or if you want to do the opposite way, make it hook less. So, with that being said, again, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, helps me out, or like and subscribe if you want to see more awesome content. Again, y'all are legends. I really appreciate it when you guys come up to me when I'm at tournaments and stuff and you say how much my videos have helped you, because at the end of the day, that's why I keep making them. I think it's just really cool that some of my, I don't know whether to call you guys fans, followers, or what. I think it's kind of weird to call that, so I'm just gonna call you friends or viewers. But it's cool that you guys watch, and it's cool that you guys come up and say thank you for the videos and stuff, because I am truly just trying to give you guys free advice to make you better at bowling that you don't have to pay an arm and a leg for. There's just a lot of different outlets with bowling, and there's some really, really educated people out there, but man, is it expensive. And that's something that I came into roadblocks with in my own experiences trying to come up as a bowler myself. Man, it is really hard to afford, reasonable coaching. So I'm here to cut them costs in half and at least give you something. So with that being said, if you want to see something else, push it in the comments button. Want to make fun of me? Put it in the comments. Want to like my video? That's not in the comments. That's above it. So, see you guys next time.